Many men believe that the more effort they put into chasing a woman, the stronger her emotional attraction will become. As a result, they are always the first to text, constantly check in, and make themselves available whenever she needs them. Deep down, they fear that if they stop chasing her, they will lose her completely. What many men fail to realize, however, is that stepping back can sometimes have the opposite effect. In certain situations, the moment a man stops chasing is the moment a woman begins to notice his absence on a deeper emotional level. When someone is always present, predictable, and consistently available, their attention can gradually become something that is taken for granted. But when that familiar pattern suddenly changes, it often captures attention. Her thoughts may become more focused on him, her emotions may become more engaged, and questions she never previously considered can start surfacing naturally. Because what actually happens inside a woman's mind when a man pulls his energy back is much deeper psychologically than most men have ever been told. The first thing that happens when you stop chasing is her mind becomes louder, not quieter. Many men never witness this process because, from the outside, it may appear as though nothing has changed. As a result, they often assume she has lost interest, moved on, or forgotten about them entirely. In reality, her internal experience may be very different. When a man's attention is always available, his presence can become something she naturally expects. It doesn't mean she dislikes it, it simply becomes part of the routine. She knows he will reach out, stay engaged, and continue showing interest regardless of circumstances. Because that attention feels guaranteed, she rarely experiences what it is like to be without it. However, when he quietly pulls back and stops chasing, a shift often takes place. Questions begin to surface that never seemed important before. She may wonder why his behavior changed, whether his feelings have faded, or if another woman now has his attention. She may even find herself missing the attention she once took for granted. This is often the stage where she begins reflecting on him more deeply than she did when he was constantly available. Absence has a way of drawing attention to emotional connections that routine availability can sometimes conceal. The second thing is that she may start questioning everything she thought she understood about you. Most people feel comfortable when situations are predictable. Certainty allows them to relax emotionally. Uncertainty, on the other hand, encourages reflection and analysis. Previously, she may have felt she understood exactly where she stood. She knew he liked her, knew he would initiate contact, and knew his attention was consistently available. Because everything seemed clear, there was little reason to think about him beyond the surface level. When that certainty disappears, however, her perspective can begin to change. She may question whether she misjudged him, wonder if her own behavior created distance, or consider whether she underestimated his value. The loss of predictability often sparks curiosity and deeper emotional engagement. As a result, she may revisit past conversations, reinterpret shared experiences, and assign new meaning to moments she once overlooked. Even his silence can begin to feel significant. In many cases, this is when genuine intrigue develops towards someone she previously believed she had completely figured out. The third thing is that his absence can sometimes become more emotionally noticeable than his constant presence ever was. Many men find this difficult to accept because they believe attraction grows only through greater effort, attention, and availability. Yet human emotions do not always operate according to that logic. When someone is always available, their presence gradually becomes familiar and expected. She knows he will respond, maintain the connection, and remain available regardless of what happens. When that familiar pattern suddenly changes, the emotional experience changes as well. Uncertainty naturally captures attention. She begins noticing the places where his energy once existed. She becomes aware that he is no longer reaching out first or surrounding her with the same level of attention. That distance often creates space for her to recognize what is missing. Without constant availability, she has an opportunity to evaluate the significance of his presence from a different perspective. In many situations, people appreciate emotional value most clearly after it is no longer consistently within reach. The fourth thing that often happens when you stop chasing her is that she begins to examine her true feelings instead of merely responding to the attention you were giving her. This is where the situation becomes more psychologically significant. Many women don't fully realize how emotionally attached they are to a man while he is constantly chasing them. As long as you're the one initiating contact, making the effort, and keeping the connection active, she remains in a passive position. She doesn't have to reflect deeply on her emotions because your attention continuously sustains the relationship. She can simply accept your effort without truly evaluating how she feels. However, once that chasing ends, the dynamic shifts. She is forced to ask herself an important question. Do I genuinely miss him, or do I just miss the attention he provided? For many women, the answer can be surprising. Suddenly, small reminders trigger unexpected emotions. A memory brings you to mind. A familiar song makes her think of you. She glances at her phone, hoping to see your name appear, even if she would never openly admit it. This is often the moment when genuine emotional attachment becomes clear because the feelings are now originating from within her rather than being constantly reinforced by your chasing. The fifth thing that happens when you stop chasing is that your silence may affect her far more deeply than she ever reveals. This is where many men become confused. On the surface, she may appear completely unaffected, calm, composed, and carrying on as usual. As a result, many assume she never cared. In reality, people often conceal emotional reactions, especially when pride, vulnerability, and uncertainty are involved. Acknowledging that your absence affects her would require admitting she cared more than she previously showed. Because of this, many women process those feelings privately. She may check whether you viewed her stories, notice when you're online without contacting her, revisit old conversations, or imagine what she would say if you suddenly reached out again. The interesting part is that most of this remains invisible. Externally, she appears in control, but internally, your absence may create far more emotional movement than you realize. After all, people who truly feel nothing rarely spend time paying attention to someone's absence. The sixth thing that happens when you stop chasing is that you finally gain a clear understanding of her actual level of interest. This is one of the most important psychological shifts because constant chasing often hides the truth. When you're always initiating conversations, making plans, and carrying the relationship's momentum, she never has to demonstrate how much effort she's willing to invest herself. Your chasing keeps everything going, allowing her true level of commitment to remain hidden. Once you step back, however, the situation changes. She must decide for herself. Do I genuinely want to maintain this connection, or was I simply enjoying the attention, validation, and comfort he consistently provided? What happens afterward often provides the answer. A woman who feels a genuine emotional connection will usually find a way to reconnect, even in subtle ways, a message, a reaction, or an excuse to start a conversation. Losing your presence simply doesn't feel right to her. On the other hand, if no effort comes from her side, as painful as that may be, you gain something valuable: clarity. And clarity is far healthier than endlessly chasing someone who was never moving toward you in return.